Hello, my name's Dennis. Welcome to Adventures in One Love. I'm on a business trip right now, but I want to talk to you about two things. First thing, freedom. Second thing, identity. Let's go.
Oh, I'm sitting here in Huntsville, Alabama, in a hotel for a 2-week trip. Been working up here, been here for a week. And man, coming through the airport, it was pretty slow. So many shops still closed. The seats on the airplane were packed because people are starting to move again, but there's just not as many flights. So the airport's not nearly as crowded. So it's kind of not disheartening, but different. The hotel is pretty quiet. Not very many people here. We're ending June and going into July. July 4th, Independence Day. Independence Day, when America declared independence from England. One Love is going to Puerto Rico, and I'm doing a missions trip starting on the 2nd of July, so we're looking forward to that. Got a team going. And, so for the month of July, we're going to be focusing on freedom. Maybe some of the struggles that Puerto Rico has gone through. Some things they're going through right now, even in the government, what's going on, corruption. We just feel that the Lord is calling people from Puerto Rico back to Puerto Rico to rebuild their homeland, to rebuild where they've come from. So many people have left Puerto Rico because of economic hardship. And then most recently, of course, a hurricane, which caused devastation in Puerto Rico. And that, in the most recent history, has caused a lot of people to leave because of that as well. So we just want to rebuild people, want to encourage them, to let them know who they are, right? And to be proud of their heritage, but yet know that they can find their true identity in Christ, but that they are beautiful for where they're from. Well, I don't have a tripod, so I'm having to hold this camera everywhere I go. So I'm running up to Best Buy, see if there's any options for me to check out. Boom, GorillaPod 3K. So I found this interesting park, and it seems to be made in the pattern of DNA. So it's and I don't forget the word. I'm going to fill in the word here, by something or another. But one part is a concrete path, the other is a rock path, and then there's descriptions of DNA, kind of genes as it goes down. So there's little signs for each type of DNA. Very interesting. So it's crazy that I happen to find this park, because DNA plays a big role of who we are as a person, right? We get DNA from our mother, we get DNA from our father. It combines and it makes up who we are. Some of what we look like, and even characteristics, our personality. But another key player to that is where we're from and where we grew up, right? The culture that we grew up in. And in America, there's an over-dominance, or a key component of it is the concept of freedom, right? And that goes back to the beginning of this nation. So I want to read to you 2 sentences from the Declaration of Independence. It's going to be the first sentence of the second paragraph, and then I'm going to read the last sentence of the whole document. So here we go with the first sentence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's something that you're probably familiar with, right? You've seen it, you've heard it. And now the last paragraph, I want you to focus in on how it ends and the commitment that these people were making. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So why is this important? Why do I bring it up? I think that it's very interesting how we can see ourselves based on our surroundings. We had a great man, John, that came on to one of our videos, and he talked about how he didn't want to carry the identity that he received from his father, that he didn't want to be like his father. He didn't want to be like what he grew up with, what he knew, and he knew he wanted to change, and he was able to change, and through the power of God was able to change his life, how he performed, how he acted. And we know that God can do that in anybody's life, that he can show us our true identity, our identity in Christ as made in God's image. This holds true because in Puerto Rico has been
part of the United States of America for a while. They were granted citizenship, I think, over 100 years ago. But many people in Puerto Rico feel as they've been neglected, that they haven't received the same support that the States or the mainland receives. And so that can hurt someone's identity, make them feel as if they're not worthy, second-class citizens, and that can impact their entire life. Now we know through Christ that we can be reconnected to that we can see who we are despite our surroundings, despite our environment, and know who we are because who our Father is, and that doesn't matter as much, but that we can work forward and we want to help other people. I got a great verse about why Jesus came.
Before I share that verse with you, I'm heading to church.
All right, here's that verse. Here it is. Luke 4, starting in verse 17. He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. And he was handed the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord." Why is this so important? You know, I think of it when I hear that verse in the past. We've always talked about being set free from oppressed. And oftentimes, I don't know if it was directly taught to me this way, but I think of sin, right? And I think that is included, right? He came to set us free from sin because we are becoming a new creation in him, and he paid that price. But it also says to give the sight to the blind, to preach the gospel to the poor. Those are worldly things. The poor need the gospel. Those without money, those without much stuff need the gospel, because even in their suffering, they can receive the salvation, right, and go on to the greater everlasting life. In the same way, God did come to help those that are oppressed. And so it makes me think different groups of people that are in situations where they're oppressed, whether it be financially, emotionally, and even economically, right? So we know, I'm talking about Puerto Rico here, that they're going through something, that the people have an identity issue, that there's governmental issues that are bigger at play that I'm not, necessarily key on going into, but the gospel is going there and we can bring it to them. And so not only that us in America, that we're not stuck on the fact that we're free, but that we can help others get free and take care of others, which is key there. Not thinking only of our own interests. And as believers, we're still get involved politically in the sense that we do vote, that we do action, and we do things on behalf of those with less, because that's the right thing to do. So as we approach Independence Day, I'm grateful for God. I'm so grateful to those founding fathers that committed their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor to a cause of liberty and freeing people. And they set a bedrock that has the biblical principles intertwined to show that we want people to be free, that we want people to be able to live, but also be able to live as the God has called them to. And so we just want to champion and be an advocate for those that are being oppressed, but we should always keep our best heart at mind, that as the Lord tells us to love thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, and all thy soul, and to love thy neighbor as thyself, right? So even in political situations, we still would touch people with love, that we would still reach out in love, despite rules and laws and things like that, which may need to be put in place, right? It is the government's job for security and for justice. So we want to support that, but we also need to be voting members, we need to be knowledgeable, and we need to advocate for those that have less, and bring up a discussion with those marginalized groups. So I appreciate you for listening to me on my trip. I had a great time at the church service today, and I'm so grateful for all God is doing through One Love Ministries, and we hope to see you around. God bless.